I used to believe family was everything, the one place I could always count on. But one afternoon, when my daughter Sarah forgot to hang up after a call, I overheard a gut-wrenching truth. She and my grandkids mocked me, called me clueless, and schemed to sell my house and shuffle me into a cheap nursing home. My heart shattered. But at 72, I refused to be used. With my sister Clara's help, I stood tall, cut all ties, and started over, painting my life with bold, I'm Eleanor Thompson, a 72-year-old widow living in a cozy house in suburban Seattle, where memories of my husband Robert and our daughter Sarah once filled every corner. Robert passed away 5 years ago from a heart attack, leaving me with cherished memories and a void nothing could fill. The house, with its small garden and family photos on the mantel, was my anchor, a place I clung to for a sense of belonging. But truth be told, my days had grown quiet. I went to yoga class at the community center on Tuesdays and sometimes read with my friend Martha, but long hours often passed with just the tick of the wall clock and the hum of the TV for company. Sarah, my only child, was my last tie to family. She called every Wednesday afternoon, and though our chats weren't warm, they were something I looked forward to. "How you doing, Mom?" she'd ask, her voice flat. And I'd share bits about yoga, my new carnations in the garden, or how Martha said I was getting better at my poses. But I could hear her distraction, the clack of her keyboard, like she was multitasking while we talked. Sarah, now 45, lives with her husband and two kids, Ethan, 24, and Lily, 21, about 40 minutes away in a neighborhood across town. I rarely saw them except for big holidays like Thanksgiving or Christmas. Ethan, confident like his dad, used to be the little boy who loved his grandpa's fishing stories. Lily, with her bright smile, once made me clumsy handmade cards. But now they're busy young adults with jobs, friends, and their own plans. I told myself that's just how it goes, that their generation moves faster than mine. Still, I couldn't help missing the old days when we'd gather around the dinner table, Robert grilling out back, Sarah and the kids filling the house with laughter. Those memories were like an old song, sweet but tinged with ache. The house was where Robert and I built our life. It's not fancy, just a two-bedroom bungalow with a little garden, but it holds priceless sentimental value. I loved tending my carnations, feeling the soil under my hands, like Robert did with his apple tree. But lately, keeping up the house felt harder. Property taxes climbed, repair bills piled up, and my knees, creaky with arthritis, weren't what they used to be. Sarah suggested I sell. "Mom, real estate prices are through the roof," she said once, her tone gentle but pointed. "Sell the place, move to a smaller condo, and you'd have plenty left to live comfortably." I thought she was looking out for me, for my future. "I'll think about it, honey," I said, though deep down, I couldn't bear to leave the home filled with Robert's memory. But those talks weren't just suggestions. About 2 years ago, Sarah and the kids started showing up more often, which was unusual since Robert's death. Ethan came by, all charm, pitching a tech startup. "I just need $4,000, 0 cents to get it off the ground, Grandma," he said, eyes gleaming. "It's a big opportunity. You'd be proud of me." I wrote the check, feeling like I was still a helpful grandma, part of his life. Months later, Lily showed up, teary-eyed, saying she was drowning in credit card debt. "I swear I'll pay you back, Grandma. Just $3, 0 cents to get through this." I wrote another check, thinking that's what family does. But then I saw Ethan driving a shiny new SUV, and Lily posted Instagram pics with a designer purse. I wondered if the money I gave was really used the way they claimed. My sister Clara, 77 and sharper than a tack, started sounding alarms. Clara lives a few miles away in a tidy apartment, and we'd meet for coffee regularly. "Ellie, don't you find it odd?" she said, her voice serious. "Sarah and the kids only show up when they want cash. They never ask how you're really doing." I brushed it off, forcing a smile. "They're family, Clara. Family helps each other out." But she shook her head, worry in her eyes. "Family doesn't act like that, Ellie. Watch yourself." I didn't want to believe her, but her words planted a seed of doubt. I started paying closer attention. Sarah kept asking about my finances, suggesting I needed someone to manage my money. Mom, I could keep an eye on your accounts, she offered, all sweetness. I let her have access to a joint account, thinking it showed trust. But when I checked my bank statements, I saw strange withdrawals, money gone that I didn't recall spending. Those doubts grew, but I told myself I was overthinking. Sarah was my daughter, the girl I raised, taught, and loved for 45 years. Ethan and Lily were my flesh and blood, the grandkids I'd rocked to sleep, sung lullabies to. How could they not care about me? I convinced myself they were just struggling, that their money requests were temporary. But in quiet moments, sitting alone with a cold cup of tea, I couldn't ignore the unease. Something felt off, like a sour note in a familiar tune. I missed Robert, his protective presence, his insistence that I deserved respect. "Ellie, you're a gem," he'd say, his smile lighting up the room. Without him, I felt adrift, trying to hold on to the fragments of a family I believed was still whole. Every night, I passed the family photos on the mantel. Sarah at 10, holding Robert's hand on a camping trip. Ethan and Lily hugging me on a long-ago Christmas. I touched them as if I could pull those moments back. But reality was different. Sarah wasn't that little girl anymore, and the grandkids weren't those innocent children. I started to wonder if I was clinging to a family that only existed in my memories. Clara's words echoed, "Ellie, you deserve better than this." I wanted to believe her, but I wasn't ready to face the truth. Not until that fateful Wednesday afternoon, when a phone call changed everything. It was like something out of a slow-motion movie, with me as the unsuspecting lead caught in a plot twist. That Wednesday, Seattle's sky was gray, a light drizzle tapping the windows. I sat at the kitchen table, a cold coffee and an unread book in front of me. The phone rang, Sarah's name on the screen. I picked up, forcing cheer into my voice as always. "Hey, honey," I said. "How's your day?" Sarah replied with her usual flat tone, asking about yoga, my garden, the usual small talk. I told her about my carnations finally blooming, how Martha said I was nailing the bridge pose. She and oh, and at the right moments. But I heard her keyboard clacking, like she was barely listening. The call lasted about 10 minutes, same as 100 others. Dull, but a thread I held dear. Then Sarah's tone shifted, suddenly warm. "Mom, Ethan's birthday is next weekend," she said. "We're throwing a party at the bistro, his favorite spot. You'll come, right?" I smiled, surprised and touched. It'd been ages since I was invited to a family gathering. "Of course, sweetheart," I said. "What should I bring?" Sarah was quick. "Just yourself, Mom. We've got it covered." But then, like a predictable refrain, she added, her voice hesitating. "Oh, Mom, I hate to ask, but could you send $200? 0 cents. The restaurant needs a deposit for the private room, and we're a bit tight this month." I frowned, something feeling off. Fancy places like the bistro usually held reservations with a credit card, not cash. But I pushed the thought aside. "Sure, honey," I said. "I'll send it over." Sarah gushed thanks, called me the best mom ever, then said she had to run for a meeting. I heard her move, like she set the phone down, but the call. I was about to hang up when a voice cut through, sharp and cold, stopping me cold. "Does she suspect anything?" It was Ethan, his tone hard, impatient. My heart pounded. I pressed the phone to my ear, hands trembling. "Not a bit," Sarah replied, her voice dripping with scorn. "Nothing like the sweetness from moments ago. Just keep asking about her silly yoga classes, and she eats it up. Easy as pie." I heard a giggle. Lily, unmistakable. "Once she agrees to sell the house," Lily said, "we can stick her in a cheap nursing home. That place is worth at least $1 million. Sarah let out a cold laugh. "She's so clueless. She'll never figure out we're just after the money." "The birthday party was a great idea, Ethan. She'll bring a gift. Cash, like always." I sat frozen, my coffee cup tilting, a few drops spilling onto the table. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest, the air in the room turning thick. Ethan spoke again, all business. Just keep her happy a few more months, Mom. If she signs over the house, we split the cash and her retirement account. $300,000, 0 cents, at least. Dad says it's for the family, not for her to blow. Sarah agreed. Exactly. She's frail, easy to manipulate. Just do what Dad says, and we're golden. Their laughter, sharp as glass, echoed in my mind. I fumbled to end the call, but their words were seared into me, a scar I couldn't unsee. I sat there as dusk fell, the kitchen dimming around me. Every doubt from the past 3 years, the money requests, the house sale hints, the insincere glances, snapped into focus like a completed puzzle. Sarah, my daughter, the child I birthed, raised, and loved without limit, saw me as a mark. Ethan and Lily, the grandkids I'd cradled, read bedtime stories to, mocked me behind my back, called me clueless. They didn't love me. They loved my money, my house, what I could give them. I thought of Robert, how he'd always shielded me, and wondered how he'd feel knowing our daughter had become this person. The pain wasn't just betrayal. It was the collapse of the illusion I'd clung to, that my family was still my family, that their love was real. I compared this hurt to losing Robert. His death was losing the man who loved me unconditionally, my partner of 4 decades. But losing Sarah, Ethan, and Lily was losing faith, the hope that blood ties could endure anything. It was a different kind of death, the death of memories I cherished, of my belief that I was a respected mother and grandmother. I questioned what I'd done wrong. Had I spoiled Sarah too much? Had I failed to teach her honesty? Or was this just who they were, beyond my control? The questions swirled unanswered. As night fell, I sat there, the coffee stone cold, the kitchen light casting my reflection in the wall mirror. I saw myself, silver hair, wrinkles, tired eyes, and felt like a stranger. But in the pain, a spark flickered. I thought of Robert's words, Ellie, you're stronger than you know. I thought of Clara, how she always pushed me to stand up. I knew I couldn't live in this illusion anymore. I had to act, not out of anger, but because I deserved respect. That afternoon, hearing their cruel truth didn't just break my heart. It woke me up, forcing me to face reality and choose my own future. I didn't sleep that night. Sarah, Ethan, and Lily's words looped in my head like a scratch record. Clueless, frail, easy to manipulate, each word a stab. But as dawn broke, painting Seattle's sky with soft pink, a new clarity settled in. I couldn't change them, but I could protect myself. I picked up the phone, hands still shaking, and called Clara. Though it was barely 6 a.m., she answered instantly, her voice alert. Ellie, what's wrong? She asked. And I couldn't hold back. I spilled everything. The call, their vicious words, their plan to take my house and money. My voice broke, but saying it out loud felt like a release. Like naming the betrayal made it less terrifying. Clara was quiet for a moment, then said firmly, I'm coming over. Don't do anything till I get there. Clara arrived within an hour, bringing coffee and the no-nonsense attitude I'd always admired. At 77, she was a force with short silver hair and a stride that defied her rainy day joint pain. She hugged me tight, let me cry in her arms, then sat me down at the kitchen table. All right, Ellie, she said, pulling a notebook and pen from her purse. We're fixing this. First, we secure your money. I told her about the joint account with Sarah, the credit card she could use, the odd withdrawals I'd noticed. Clara jotted notes, her handwriting as sharp as her mind. All of this gets locked down today, she said. But Clara, what do I say to them? I asked, still caught in guilt, worried about hurting Sarah despite her cruelty. You don't say a thing, Clara replied, her tone final. We protect your assets first, then figure out how to face them. We got to work immediately. I called the bank, my voice shaky but resolute, and asked to revoke Sarah's access to the joint account. The banker, a woman with a kind voice, asked, "Mrs. Thompson, are you sure? Your daughter's been authorized for years." I took a deep breath, picturing Sarah's clueless jab. "I'm positive," I said. "And I want a new account, all funds transferred with a new password, and security questions." Next were the credit card companies. I canceled Sarah's access, each call feeling like severing a tie to her. One rep asked if there was fraud to report. I paused, then said, "Not exactly fraud, but not what I intended." Each step was a reclaiming, a way to take back control. Clara suggested I call Margaret, her lawyer, a sharp, trustworthy woman in her 50s says. I phoned her and she set a meeting for the next day. At her office, Margaret listened to my story with empathy but professionalism. "Financial abuse of seniors, especially by family, is all too common," she said, scribbling in her legal pad. "But you have options to protect yourself." She proposed setting up a revocable trust to safeguard my assets, updating my will to remove Sarah as executor, and naming Clara as my financial and medical power of attorney. She also advised documenting the reasons for these changes in case Sarah tried claiming I was mentally unfit. The idea that my daughter could stoop that low stung, but I agreed. "We need to move fast, Mrs. Eleanor," Margaret said. "They might sense the shift and push back." Ethan's birthday came, and I didn't show up. No gift, no card, no explanation. Instead, Clara and I visited Sunridge Community, a retirement village 30 minutes from my house. The guide, a friendly woman named Linda, showed us a one-bedroom apartment with a big window overlooking a flower garden. "We've got art classes, a book club, and a community garden," Linda said, pointing to a sunny corner with easels. I felt a spark of hope, something I hadn't felt in ages. I put down a deposit that day, knowing this was where I'd start over. "You sure, Ellie?" Clara asked as we drove back. "This is a big step." I nodded, more certain than ever. "Clara, I need a place they can't easily find me. A place where I can live for me." Sarah and the kids started calling that night. My phone buzzed nonstop. Sarah, Ethan, then Lily, leaving voicemails dripping with fake concern. "Mom, where are you? I'm so worried," Sarah said in one. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked their numbers, changed my email password, and stayed at Clara's to avoid confrontation. We hired a security company to oversee packing my things, in case Sarah or the kids showed up. Thankfully, they didn't, though I saw Sarah's car creep by Clara's house a few times, a reminder they weren't done. I contacted a realtor to sell the house, not on Sarah's terms, but mine. When it sold for a good price, I funneled the money into the trust Margaret set up, with clear terms to protect my assets. The hardest step was changing my phone number and email. It felt like erasing myself from my old life, but Margaret was right. Sometimes the only way to stop abuse is to cut off the abusers completely. Clara was by my side through it all, holding my hand as I signed papers, reminding me I wasn't alone. "You're tougher than they think, Ellie," she said, and for the first time, I started to believe it. Those days were a whirlwind, but each move brought freedom. I wasn't just saving my money. I was saving my dignity, my future, my right to live, as I chose. Standing in Clara's empty apartment, watching my boxes ready for Sunridge, I felt the weight of betrayal lift, replaced by something new. Hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I'd chosen my path, and that was the start of a new. Moving to Sunridge Community was a turning point, thrilling yet bittersweet. The day I settled in, Clara helped me arrange my one-bedroom apartment, its big window framing a vibrant flower garden. We hung my paintings, carnations and Seattle sunsets, on the walls, turning the blank space into a warm, personal haven. The apartment was much smaller than my old house, but it was perfect for me. The corner by the window, flooded with morning light, became the ideal spot for my easel. "You're going to be happy here, Ellie," Clara said as we sat on my new sofa, sipping Earl Grey. I looked at her, smiled, and for the first time in weeks, I believed it could happen. Sunridge wasn't just a place to live, it was a lively community where I found things I didn't know I'd lost. I joined a Thursday art class led by a retired painter named Helen. With her salt and pepper hair and beaming smile, Helen praised my carnation painting. "Eleanor, you've got a real eye for color." That small compliment warmed me, like I was being seen not just as a widow or a grandma, but as an artist, a person with her own passion. I also joined the book club, where I met Joan, a 75-year-old former librarian who loved historical novels. We'd linger after discussions, sharing coffee and stories about books that shaped us. Joan didn't know about my past, about Sarah's betrayal, and I liked that. To her, I was just Eleanor, the book and art lover. I started volunteering, teaching art to kids at a nearby elementary school, and it brought back joy I'd forgotten. The children, with bright eyes and paint-smeared hands, drew whimsical pictures: huge suns, lopsided houses, dogs with comically long tails. When a little girl named Mia gave me a drawing of Grandma Eleanor with a paintbrush, I laughed, my heart feeling lighter. Those moments reminded me I still had something to give the world, that my worth wasn't tied to money, but to who I was. A big surprise was reconnecting with George, an old friend from yoga class. I ran into him at a Sunridge community dance where he led me in a slow waltz. George, 74, with a kind smile and unruly silver hair, made me feel young again. "Eleanor, you're still as graceful as you were in yoga," he said, and I blushed, a sensation I hadn't felt since dating Robert. At first, I was shy, scared to open up after everything, but George was patient, inviting me to concerts, cooking simple pasta dinners. He never asked about money, only wanted to spend time with me. "Your paintings are beautiful," he said, admiring my sunset piece. "They remind me of beach evenings." His sincerity healed me bit by bit. This new life wasn't easy at first. Some nights I lay awake, wondering if I'd been too harsh cutting off Sarah and the kids. Was there a misunderstanding? Could I have talked it out? But then I'd recall their cold laughter, their plan to dump me in a cheap nursing home, and I knew I'd done right. Those doubts faded, replaced by a new confidence. I began redefining family. Not blood, but the people who respected and loved me unconditionally. Clara, with her visits bearing croissants and neighborhood gossip, was family. Joan, with our book talks, was family. George, with his smile that eased my pain, was family. Sunridge, with residents greeting me each morning, was family. Painting became my greatest therapy. Every morning, I set up my easel by the window, letting sunlight guide my brush. I painted Sunridge's garden, vivid carnations, or the fiery sunsets I'd watched with Robert. Each canvas was a step forward, a way to tell my story, not of pain, but of resilience. Helen urged me to submit to a community art show, and when one of my paintings sold for $50, 0 cents, I laughed, not for the money, but for the recognition. "You should teach a class, Eleanor," Helen said. And I started thinking, why not? I learned to live in the moment. I stopped checking my phone for calls from Sarah or the kids. I stopped dwelling on the old family where everything seemed perfect. Instead, I savored small joys. A concert with George, a book Joan recommended, a new bloom in the community garden. I joined Sunridge's gentle yoga class, giggling when I wobbled in bridge pose. My life, though simple, brimmed with meaning because it was mine, chosen by me. The biggest shift was how I saw myself. I wasn't the lonely widow, the failed mother, or the used grandma anymore. I was Eleanor Thompson, an artist, a volunteer, a friend. I was stronger than I'd ever realized, just as Robert said. Each day I felt a new freedom. Freedom to be myself, to love without fear, to paint my future in colors I picked. Sunridge wasn't just home, it was where I rediscovered myself, where I learned that at 72, life was still full of possibility. I didn't forget the sting of betrayal, but I didn't let it define me. Instead, I chose joy, creativity, and relationships that lifted my spirit. 3 months after moving to Sunridge, Sarah found me. One afternoon, as I painted in my apartment, the front desk called. "Mrs. Thompson, someone's here to see you." I knew who it was before I reached the lobby. Sarah stood there, holding a bouquet of carnations, my favorite flower, her smile forced. "Mom, I've been so worried," she said, her voice syrupy but hollow. "Why'd you disappear? We looked everywhere." I looked at my daughter, the child I'd once cradled, and felt a mix of love and exhaustion. "Sarah, you know why," I said, my voice steady. "I heard that call, everything you, Ethan, and Lily said. I know what you think of me." Her face paled and she stammered, "You got it wrong, Mom. We were just joking." I raised a hand to stop her. "Don't lie, Sarah. I heard you call me clueless. Heard your plan to sell my house. I deserve respect." Sarah switched to pleading. "We're family, Mom. I'm sorry if we upset you. Come back to us." But her words rang empty, lacking sincerity. "I'm already home," I said, gesturing to Sunridge's garden through the window. "I don't need anything from you, Sarah. If you want a relationship, it has to be built on respect, not money." She left, leaving the flowers on the table, no promises made. Ethan and Lily sent texts, but I didn't reply. I left a crack open for them, but I didn't wait. Now, I paint every morning, sunlight dancing on my brush. I live for myself, with Clara, George, and my Sunridge friends, my true family. At 72, I've learned family is unconditional love, and I'm painting my life's canvas, vibrant with hope and freedom.